Alright, so this is the Dead Games Society channel, and we usually talk about dead games. However, something very strange has come up. I'm a huge fan of Legend of the Five Rings, although there has been a bit of a split in the fan base recently. I tend to just, explore what's there. And so what has happened recently, Fantasy Flight Games, this is old news, but still, they've announced the completion of the Legend of the Five Rings living card game. Completion is Fantasy Flight Games' way of saying, we're not going to produce more product for this game after a certain point. They're releasing one final box set, which is equivalent to Anvil of Despair and Time of the Void rolled into one, called Under Fulang Shadow, where you actually have a bunch of Shadowlands forces you can actually play as. But in any case, the deal is they're actually putting their wraps. By the end of the year, Legend of the Five Rings card game will receive no further support from Fantasy Flight Games. Is it a dead game? Well, people do play this game. Not as many as played the original game, but still, people who play Legend of the Five Rings Living Card Game Edition are going to be playing a game that is not produced by the manufacturer anymore. It's on its way to being potentially dead at that point. And of course, I've heard some very scary news that Fantasy Flight Games does not resell their IPs. Oh boy. But in any case, I have not covered the living card game version of Legend of the Five Rings on this channel because it was in production. The company made Legend of the Five Rings, but not this time. Now, there are plenty of how to play videos out there. I'm not going to cover how to play this game. And there are plenty of things that talk about the various different small nuances of how to use different cards to your advantage. I'm not going to cover that in this video. I just want to point out, I have built a deck for this game. I have played essentially what's a tutorial round, essentially, with this game. I haven't really stopped and played it. I'll be honest, when it comes to Fantasy Flight's venture into Legend of the Five Rings, I really prefer their role-playing game to their card game, because the role-playing game gets some things right. You can make the role-playing game work because, oh boy, it's a role-playing game and it's up to your imagination to improve things. With this, it's a card game, it's a competitive card game, so you are stuck with their rules, their format, and changing things. I think there might be house rules possible, but they have to explain them or talk about them online to get them to spread. It's not going to happen through the company itself. So, Legend of the Five Rings, living card game versus the original card games. What's different? You know what? I might as well cover a few basic things. First of all, you do have, let me just open the box here for a little bit, show you my marketing. Oh, and it's one of those games, much like anything from Fantasy Flight, it comes with a pack of rules addendum you get with every expansion you buy. You can tell you how many expansions I've purchased, mostly because they're now on sale. So you have a deck, look, my dragon deck, and it's composed of, as usual, you have a deck you draw out of and a deck that you place in your provinces. Let me get these backwards. Okay. These are called dynasty decks, even in this version of the game. This is called a conflict deck because fate replaces gold as your resource. You heard me. Fate replaces gold. Don't ask me. They did it. But in any case, so what you usually have is you have a deck that's supposed to be only 40 to 45 cards deep, and this conflict deck has, let me cover that stuff differently. But anyway, so what you get is you get a Stronghold. The Stronghold produces fate per turn, and that can carry over. Taxation's not a thing in this game. Fate carries over from turn to turn. This modifies the province it's attached to, which, by the way, the Stronghold province is your dynasty deck. So let that be known. And I do think you get to put a fifth province underneath this guy. So in any case, this little boy has honor here, has fate here, and has influence here. Influence is actually important in this version of the game because guess what? Almost everything has a clan. I'll get to that in a second, but you need your influence to get things that are out of your clan, and I believe it's only one clan at a time. Mixing clans would be a great house rule. It really would, considering how strangely things have gone. You then get you get a roll card if you really want it. I think it's optional, but you can. It's double-sided too, so you can choose to be a seeker of the element or a keeper of the element, and then play with a special card effect that comes from there. Then you actually have province cards. They work just like regions do in the original game, except they're all placed at the beginning of the game, and they're revealed when you decide to attack that province. Kind of funny, right? And yeah, you have, I only have 4 in this deck. I forgot, you're supposed to have a 5th one that represents the Dynasty deck itself. But it's weird, they all have elements attached to them in the bottom right corner, see my thumb? And those, you're supposed to have one of each unless you have a role, like my Seeker of Air role allows me to have 2 air provinces. Like I have a Manicured Garden and a Frostbitten Crossing. That's another funny thing. Provinces don't make sense anymore. Night Raid. Okay, so I have a location in my territories that's a Night Raid. Yeah, okay. However that turns out. And then of course you have your various, what's really funny is whether it's unique or not is just marked right there next to the name. So you'll know which characters are unique because, gee, these guys have very generic things like Tagashi Initiate versus being like Miyamoto Masahige. So, and my deck is just full of characters and stuff. Let's talk about the actual differences between one version of the game and the other. Opening the rulebook, there's a few things you gotta know about the differences between these two games. So, first of all, there's a lot of different things as far as tokens. This is Fantasy Flight Games, so of course they even gave you a token for who's the first player. By first player, I mean first player during that turn. Unlike previous versions of L5R, both turns happen simultaneously, passing back and forth between the first player and the second player. I don't think they supported multiplayer in this version. But you have who has essentially the initiative for that turn, and they get the first dynasty phase, the first draw phase, the first conflict declaration. You get 2 honor dials, which are crazy because how honor works in this game is the following. There's a step, during the draw phase, you select how much honor you want to bid. If you're smart, you pick like a middling number or you go really low in an attempt to really screw your opponent. But you pick a number, of course you do the whole secret, haha, reveal at the same time kind of thing. And what happens is, based on the differences between that number, let's say my opponent was greedy and put down a 5 instead of a nice happy 2. And let's say I put down my 3. I would gain 2 honor from doing that. So you gain honor during the draw phase. What happens then? Well, you draw the number of cards you bid. And if you want to be like really nice and conservative, you gain honor left and right. If you're a smart player who can do things with just like 1 or 2 fate cards in your hand, extra per turn, congratulations. You can just honor rock it without having to play Crane. So that's a thing. So this is one aspect of the game that's different. Another thing is you have these ring tokens. Ring tokens are crazy in that whenever you're declaring a conflict at a province, you have to grab one of the rings. That's right, they're mandatory in this version of the game. You grab one of the rings, you place it on that province and say, we're doing a water battle at this province. Now as a result, you get weird stuff like, there's a lot of things in this game that are tied to moving around or manipulating what happens with each individual ring, since the rings are a major play of this version of the game as opposed to being a legendary aspect like the old game was. At the end of the turn, you put fate counters on rings, so if people have not been picking, let's say like the Earth ring, and it's been just sitting there doing nothing, it can gain a bunch of fate, and so it becomes more lucrative of a target if you want to get more fate that's not off of your stronghold. You start at like 10 or 11 honor, you win at 25 and lose at 0. You do break provinces in this game, but breaking provinces used to be a slang term. It used to be called destroyed a province. Now they're officially called breaking them. Ha ha ha! And they stay in play. You just take that province card that I showed you earlier, and you essentially dishonor it. That's how you break provinces. So I do believe broken provinces cannot hold cards in them for more than 1 turn. It's a weird thing where you can still draw cards out of them, but it's only for 1 turn, and you must discard broken province cards at the end of the phase. So that's a thing. Another thing that's different about this game, fate as a resource. It's the thing that got me the most because it's literally, to put it straight up, all your characters in this game have cancer. And the only way you can avoid their deaths is by giving them extra chemotherapy. So you pay for their fate cost. So you have character boy here, right? You pay for his fate cost, and then he's in play for that turn. Literally just that turn. At the end of the phase, since he has no extra fate tokens on him, he goes away. He's discarded. He literally does not exist anymore. And that goes for all characters. It does not say holdings. But holdings are different. I'll get to that in a second. It does not say like provinces or anything like that. There are attachments that attach to characters, and of course you assume if you discard a character, the attachments attached to that character go into the discard pile. Now, in this version of the game, you can reshuffle your decks at a loss of honor. That can happen. Fate is a weird thing with this game because it's set and your cards naturally degenerate. I mean, each turn you lose. If you don't put extra fate tokens on your cards, that card doesn't stick around. Nothing in this game sticks around. So check this out. We have here, this is another one of those weird provinces. This is Rallied to the Cause, which is weirdly enough a province as opposed to an action. When a holding shows up in it, you don't actually play it. As long as that holding is there, I think until you discard it of your own choice, that holding modifies the strength value of the province, and then you get that special ability off the holding. So you can choose to lock up a province and give the province a special boost. It sounds weird. Now, there's no clarification in the beginning rules that I have in the main box set as to whether or not you can still put cards on top of a holding card and still get cards out of that province. But I know that holdings stay there and modify that province. And if you don't like the holding, you can discard it, and it goes back into your discard pile. That's one thing that's different. Holdings do that. You also now have characters that show up in your conflict deck or fate deck. This is what most characters look like. What's really funny is the attachments are pretty much still the same. You just pay the fate cost, it attaches to the character. And of course, when the character runs out of fate points, there goes the attachment as well. Now, here's the thing that really gets me. Notice that the Ancestral Die Show here has a clan. This is not unusual. In fact, a lot of things have a clan. You can't just put a Kakita Blade on a Dragon Clan guy. And this Ancestral Die Show, weirdly enough, even though Ancestral Die Show is a universal term that would apply to, you know, any clan samurai in Rokugan, the Ancestral Die Show card has a Dragon Clan trait to it. So it's Dragon Clan. And it has two of these influence bars. Remember the influence I mentioned was important earlier? Yeah, you kind of need influence to play ordinary attachments that belong to some other clan. Oh well. That's not the worst thing. Events have a clan. This is written in the stars. And it has a requirement to bring into your deck if you're not Dragon Clan. And it has the Dragon Clan symbol. For some reason, this event, this action card, belongs to the Dragon Clan. Like the Phoenix can't do written in the stars, despite the fact you think this Phoenix could do it too. It would have been really nice if they multipled up the clans just to give it more flexibility in the game, but I don't know why they did that. Then again, some things don't make sense to me. Like, look at this. Issue a challenge is a Crane Clan card. The Lion and the Dragon, who are also known for having duelists, can't issue challenges unless they actually pay the influence cost to put issue a challenge in their decks. Which is also funny because check this out. This is an assassination card. I don't see a Scorpion Clan alignment there. This is a neutral card. So it's like they have cards that should belong to a specific clan, but they're not. So you can have Crane Clan assassinations. Okay. Here's the charge. Keep in mind, just because a card has the same name as an old card in this set doesn't mean it does the same thing. The original charge was +2 force for an attacking personality, +3 if you were Lion. This version says during a military conflict you can choose a character in a province and put that character into play. What was that? Bringing in the reserves or something like that. There was an Alphavar card that brought in cards that was a different name. So there's that. Mantis don't have their own clan. I have Yoritomo in my deck because he's a badass. See, they have a basic Mantis Seafarer, just an ordinary dude. Talk about design decisions. There's a volcanic troll here that is Dragon Clan for some damned reason, as opposed to being weighted up for the Shadowlands expansion. I have a bigger question than that. I mean, seriously. This is the military skill of the character. This is the political skill of the character. How the hell did a volcanic troll in any lengthy imagination get a political skill of 3? There are Crane Clan characters that do not have a political skill of 3. How the hell did this guy measure up so badass? In a political sense. He's a naked troll who walks around the mountains. Okay. I don't get that design decision. There's a thing they talk about all the time in the one video about mono no owari. Now the phrase mono no owari, notice my pronunciation, talks about the end of things. That's what it really means in Japanese. It's the end of things. Now this card has it spelled out mono no aware. Mono no aware? That's not the same thing as mono no owari. They're two different words. And I looked it up. I was like, don't they know what their spelling's supposed to be? Mono no aware means pitiful thing. It literally means, it's an insult phrase. My thoughts on the Legend of the Five Rings living card game. It's playable in its own pocket dimension. It's not Alphavar as we know it. it's the new L5R, and then it's going away. So if you want to have a new L5R in the future, I hate to say it, there's a very big chance that Fantasy Flight Games is going to be sitting on the IP and not going to do anything more with it. I do believe they're still developing the role-playing line through an alternate company they have under their control. This game, if you ask me, you don't have to buy it to have it as part of your L5R collection unless you're a bit of a completionist. It doesn't compare to the original card game. It's very different in its focus. And the way the mechanics work are very odd. And it's going out of fashion. It's going to be out of production. The last thing is the Under the Fu Lang Shadow box set, and after that, nothing more. So my thoughts on it are, if you need it for completion value, please go ahead and buy one. I know some people are upset that this game happened, but it's here, it exists, and you don't have to play it. And now it may die. So congratulations, it is on my channel as an if. May it not? We don't know. I don't know how far the community is going to take this or how attached they are to the living card game. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope that no matter which version of L5R you play, you can enjoy the land of Rokugan with the rest of us. Hopefully.